All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're tackling a massive, literally game-changing shift in how companies hire across state lines. Look, if you're a business based entirely outside of Colorado, but you accept resumes from folks living inside Colorado, the rules of the game are changing dramatically. Today, we're unpacking Colorado Senate Bill 216-189. It's the state's completely rewritten landmark AI legislation. And we're going to break down exactly how this new law transforms the whole applicant tracking system, or ATS, landscape. We'll do this by actually following the real-world journey of a Colorado job seeker applying to an out-of-state company. So what actually happens when an out-of-state AI decides you just aren't right for the job? I mean, we've all probably wondered about this, right? You spend hours tailoring your resume, you cross your fingers, you hit submit on a company's portal located like 5 states away, and almost instantly you get an automated rejection email. Welcome to the AI resume black hole. It's incredibly frustrating. Well, it turns out Colorado lawmakers thought so too. This explainer is all about exactly that scenario, and the brand new legal rights Colorado residents now have to peek behind that digital curtain and actually challenge the algorithm. To really get why this is such a big deal for businesses, we kind of have to look at how we got here. Check out the contrast on this slide. Over on the left, we've got the original 2024 Colorado AI Act. As legal analyses from firms like Covington and Proskauer pointed out, that original law was extremely heavy. We're talking broad risk management programs, super burdensome impact assessments, and extensive public reporting. It was so heavy, in fact, that it was actually stayed by a federal judge after a lawsuit by XAI. But look over at the right side. Lawmakers passed SB 26-189 to replace it. They stripped away all that broad governance and replaced it with really targeted, applicant-focused protections. Think upfront disclosures, post-adverse explanations, and meaningful human review. It's way more streamlined, but make no mistake, it is highly specific in what it demands from employers. Now, you might be wondering, does this actually apply if my company is headquartered in, say, New York or Texas? Yes, absolutely. Take a look at this exact quote from the statute, which was highlighted in the Adams and Reese analysis. Under this law, a protected consumer explicitly includes a job applicant who is a Colorado resident, evaluated by a person doing business in Colorado. Basically, if you're an out-of-state employer and you're accepting applications from Coloradans, you're actively doing business there. The absolute second your AI scans their resume, this law is triggered. You just can't ignore this because your HR department happens to sit in another time zone. Okay, so what actually sets off the alarms and triggers this law? It all comes down to ADMT, Automated Decision-Making Technology. As the Proskauer analysis breaks it down, this is technology that processes personal data to generate outputs used to make decisions. We're talking predictions, classifications, scores, that kind of thing. But wait, notice what is deliberately excluded here. You don't need to panic about your basic office software. Calculators, antivirus programs, spell checkers, and basic spreadsheets that still require manual human analysis, those are strictly excluded. The real target here is sophisticated algorithmic scoring and sorting. To really wrap our heads around this, let's walk through the actual timeline of our Colorado job seeker applying for that remote role. Okay, day 1, the applicant submits their resume. At that exact moment, an upfront notice is legally required. Let's say a few days pass, and on day 5, the applicant tracking system flags the resume as a poor fit and kicks out an automated rejection. Under the law, that is an adverse outcome. From that specific day, the out-of-state employer's clock starts ticking. By day 35, so exactly 30 days later, they hit the absolute maximum deadline to provide a legally compliant explanation for that rejection. Let's break these specific steps down.
Step 1 is all about the upfront notice.
So this is the exact moment they actually apply for the job. Before your applicant tracking system even looks at the Colorado resident's resume, you have a legal duty. The out-of-state employer, the deployer in legal terms, has to provide what the law calls clear and conspicuous notice right at the point of interaction. So when the applicant hovers over and hits that submit button on your careers page, there needs to be a really prominent disclosure stating that automated decision-making technology is going to evaluate their application. You can't just bury this in the fine print of some massive privacy policy. It has to be reasonably accessible right there at the transaction point.
But hold on, let's clarify a super important threshold here. As the folks at Ballard Spar point out, the ADMT has to materially influence a consequential decision. Now, hiring is explicitly defined as a consequential decision under this bill, so that part is easy. But what does materially influence actually mean? Basically, it means the AI's output is a non-de minimis factor, a fancy way of saying it meaningfully alters how the decision is made. If your AI is literally just routing the application to a specific human's inbox, that doesn't trigger the law. But if the AI ranks the applicant, scores their skills, or filters them out of the human review pile entirely, yeah, that is material influence for sure, and the law fully applies.
Moving right along to step 2, the rejection explanation.
All right, here comes the truly frustrating part for the applicant. They get that automated no thank you email from your out-of-state ATS. 30. That is the magic number here. The out-of-state employer has exactly 30 days post-rejection to act. You absolutely cannot just send a generic "we went with other candidates" rejection and walk away.
So what happens during those 30 days? Well, the out-of-state company literally has to send a highly specific set of disclosures, and it's got a strict checklist. First, it must include a plain language description of the decision. Second, it needs to explain exactly what role the AI played in rejecting them. Third, it has to give the applicant clear instructions on how they can request the types and sources of personal data the AI actually used. And finally, and this is absolutely crucial, it must explicitly explain the consumer's right to appeal the decision.
Which brings us to step 3, meaningful human review.
This right here is the climax of the applicant's journey. It's their legal right to actually fight back against the algorithm. Section 611705 of the bill outlines a really structured appeal process. Here's how it flows. First, the applicant can request a correction if they realize the AI based its rejection on factually incorrect data. Second, they can officially request a meaningful human review. Third, the out-of-state deployer is required to initiate this review, provided it's commercially reasonable to do so. And fourth, an actual, living, breathing human being must reconsider that automated rejection. You are no longer allowed to just let the machine have the final, unquestioned say.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Can't the HR rep just glance at it and say, "Yep, the computer was right"? No way. The law drills down into some very specific criteria for what legally constitutes a meaningful human review. The human reviewer actually has to have the real authority to override the AI's decision. They have to consider primary evidence, they must be properly trained, and, this is the big one, they cannot simply default to the system's output. The out-of-state company can't just rubber stamp the AI's rejection. They have to perform a genuine, honest-to-goodness reevaluation.
And finally, step 4, enforcement and liability.
So what happens if an out-of-state employer just totally drops the ball here? According to the Ballard SPAR analysis, a massive concern for the business community was the threat of endless class action lawsuits. Well, SB 26189 addresses this directly. Look at the right side of the screen. There is no new private right of action created here. Individual applicants cannot sue you directly under the specific statute. However, looking at the left side, all enforcement power is exclusively granted to the Colorado Attorney General. In a violation of this process, it's legally deemed a deceptive trade practice under the Colorado Consumer Protection Act. So it's still serious business. 60. That is your magic grace period number. The law grants out-of-state employers a 60-day right to cure period. If the Attorney General flags a violation and determines that a cure is actually possible, you have exactly 60 days to fix your internal process before any formal enforcement action is taken. But, and honestly this is a massive but you really need to take away from this explainer, that right to cure provision completely expires on January 1, 2030. After that date, the training wheels are entirely off. So, we've seen how Colorado Senate Bill 26189 drags the applicant's journey right out of that dark AI black box. It forces transparency, explanations, and actual human review from employers, completely regardless of where they're headquartered. Now, because applicant tracking systems are usually deployed on a national scale, out-of-state employers are going to have a tough choice to make. Do they build a separate, highly complex compliance workflow just for resumes coming out of Colorado, or do they just adopt these transparency and appeal rights across the board for everyone? It leaves us with a really provocative question. Will Colorado's localized applicant protection ultimately force a permanent, nationwide change in how all employers use AI to hire? I'll leave you to chew on that one. Thanks so much for joining me on today's Explainer, and keep learning.